Welcome, Brigewater College Classroom Management Education 370 students. In this screencast, you're going to learn to use Moodle to create your own course. There will be a series of screencasts actually that we're going to post that will enable you to learn to use Moodle to set up your own course. Of course, you've used Moodle here at Brigewater for other classes. In our Education 370 class, you're going to learn how to set up Moodle as a course management option. You will find on your Moodle page, in addition to the regular courses you're enrolled in, a course that has a strange name to it. More than likely, it's your login for Brigewater College. So let's start by clicking on that icon and see what happens. Okay, here we are taking our first look at the course that we're going to create for our class. There's several things that we're going to change on this first screen before we start adding content. You might notice that there are actually two columns. There's a topic outline column, and we could scroll down and see that it goes down to topic 15. There's also a bunch of windows on the left-hand side. This is the navigation window, and if I scroll down, I'll see the settings window, and below that, the search forums window, and so forth. One of the first things I want to do is to get rid of some of these windows because I really don't need them on the screen. They're just sort of in the way. So you might notice that beside the word navigation, there's actually two little icons. There's one small icon that says hide the navigation block. And if I click it, all it does is it eliminates the items below navigation, although navigation is still there. There's also a larger icon to the right that says move this to the dock. So if I click on that, now it's completely gone. And likewise, if I go to search forums and click on the icon to the right, it will move it to the dock. What may or may not be obvious to you is that these items are getting put way on the far left-hand side in the black area in what's called the dock. Depending on the template you use, sometimes the dock is easier to see than others. This particular template makes the dock hard to see. It's on the left-hand side in very small print. I do want to leave up the settings, however. If you accidentally move it to the dock and want it back, as I'm doing now, you can find it over here. It's going to be listed under one of the dock items. I think mine's probably near the bottom. And I'm looking for settings. Here it is. And I can move it right back where it was. So I want the settings window to be open. What we'll do first today is we'll make some changes to the settings. So I'm going to click on Edit Settings. When I do, I see, first of all, that my course is categorized as a test course. Now, there are test courses and there are actual courses. Here at Brigewater College, what we're going to be using is a test course, which naturally means that actual Brigewater grades aren't issued. This is just something that we're doing to learn to use Moodle. So you've been given a test course. If it were an actual course, you would not change the course name of it. But since it's a test course, I definitely want you to change the course name. After all, I want the course name not to show up as Hill 2 or Martin 1 or whatever. I want it to show up with your name on it. So I'm going to make my test course Hill Sample Moodle Course. And I'm going to make mine for an Algebra 1 class. So again, I would definitely want you to change the course name so that it begins with your last name. So I know whose Moodle class I'm looking at, because you will eventually make me one of your students so that I can see your class just as you would see it as the teacher. It doesn't matter if you change the short name or not. I'm going to leave the short name alone. Now, what other settings could we change and should we change? Perhaps the hardest thing to learn about Moodle is that there are so many options that the toughest part is learning which options should I change, which should I leave alone, and which should I definitely never change. Well, let's look at format. Here's one that you could change. the default is that it's a topics format. There are some other formats, weekly format and so forth. I like topics format because that way my topics will follow my course. If I have an algebra course that's got 17 chapters, I'll have 17 topics. And this is the way you'll be constructing your course for Education 370. If you're teaching world history and your world history class has a textbook with 23 chapters, then I'd want you to have 23 topics. If it has 9 chapters, you'll pick 9 topics. So you can make the change here, of course. I'm just going to leave mine at 15 for the time being. Okay. Course start date, we're not going to mess with. And the hidden sections, we're not going to fool with that. Now, here's an option, though, that I want you to check on. Show gradebook to students. Sometimes by default, this is turned to no. And the problem with that is if the gradebook is not shown to students, then they can't keep up with their progress in the course. By turning the gradebook to yes, students can keep up with their grades in your course simply by coming to Moodle. So make sure that's set to yes. The rest of these I don't think you need to make any changes to. However, maximum upload size, I think we want to change that because you could easily have a document that's bigger than 2 megabytes, and we don't want that to be restricted from being uploaded. So I'm going to change that to 20 megabytes. So I suggest that you make that change as well. So that way, if you have a PowerPoint that you want to upload, and the PowerPoint happens to be a rather large PowerPoint, a 5 megabyte PowerPoint, you can certainly do that. Okay, the next option we're going to look at is the theme. The theme is simply the background. The default background is this blah black and white background with the little Moodle icon in the upper left hand corner, but it's really not a very exciting background. So let's make it look a little bit better by changing the theme. I've chosen the theme Brick that I'd like to use for this course. You can look through this set of templates and pick the one you like. I'm going to use Brick. You'll see in a minute what happens when we change the theme. Moving on down the page, we're going to leave guest access alone. We're going to leave groups alone. But this next option called availability is an important one. Right now, our course is grayed out. Students can't see it, can't enroll in it. We need to change that. So I'm going to make this say the course is available to students. What's going to happen when I save my changes is that instead of my course being grayed out, now it's going to be available and it will be in foreground color. We're going to leave language alone, and now I'm going to save changes. So I click Save Changes. First thing you're going to notice is that my background has changed. I've got this new template. The template is easier to see, I believe, than the original one. And I've got my navigation windows over here, and I probably want to move those to the dock again. If I click on the far right, it will move it to the dock. And here's settings. That's really what I like to have visible with just my settings. So I've made changes to the settings, including the name of the course, availability to students, and the background. Okay, there's just one more thing I want to do with our initial setup, and this step isn't required. It's just a personal preference of mine. I don't like the news forum. Some instructors do. It gives them a way to communicate information to their students, but personally I don't like it, so I want to get rid of it. Now notice the icons to the right of this item, and the icon that has an X in it is the delete item. And so you would think that all I have to do to delete the news forum is to click on the X. So I'm going to do that. I'll click on the X, and I'm going to say I absolutely want to remove it. Again, you would think that would delete it, but it turns out the news forum is a special kind of form that isn't quite that easy to delete. And to prove my point, let me turn editing back off, and it's reappeared. Not what I wanted. So I'm going to show you how to delete the news forum for good. To do so, first go back to your settings, right where we were earlier. I'm going to edit settings, and remember we made a bunch of changes here today, but I'm going to change the item that says news items to show. I'm going to change that to 0. Then I'll scroll to the bottom and I'll save my changes. Now I'm back on the Moodle page, and this time I'm going to turn editing on. I'm going to delete it just as I did before. But the difference is this time when I delete it, since I made the change on settings, it's gone for good. And to prove my point, I'll turn editing off, and sure enough, it's gone. Just what I wanted it to do. I'll turn editing back on, and you'll see I've now deleted the news forum. With this, we're going to stop. When we come back, we're going to learn how to start adding content to our course.